Trying to find my stereo remote. Hi, beautiful. Where's my, Oh, there it is. Fucking hiding. Bam, 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 bam. Da, 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 da. Alright, what was I doing? I need to... Do-do-do. Whoa. Okay, so I have to grab more in the middle. Du-du-du. All right. Let's see here. Let's see here. Shut up. Don't make me sing Baby Shark, sis. Oh, Baby Shark, do-do-do-do-do. Baby Shark, do-do-do-do-do. I will instantly play Baby Shark just for you. Every time you come in here. You want to play Farmer in the Dell? I'll play Baby Shark in the Dell. You fuck with the wrong person, sissy. I'm so happy that Gary got his package today. Fuck yeah. And thank God Gary got his RC parts. He seemed pretty happy too. Yeah, that's right. I'll sing Baby Shark just to keep you in line, woman. I'll play Barney too. I'll play the song Barney. You like Barney? Oh God, creepy. Creepy motherfucker. At least I ain't got no fucking dog that follows me like Danny T. Hey, I had fun last night in Danny T's thing. That fucking dog though. Ah, that was awesome. A fucking dog swallowed Patrick. Fucking right out Patrick's ass. Man, D, if you was there, you would have had fun. What? Nah, I ain't a nut. I'm a nut job. I ain't no nut. It was funny, yeah, it was funny. Me and Danny, fuck, we were just having a blast last night. Yeah, Patrick was the buffet. If you were, you got to go back. You got to share that to D there, Nicole. You gotta. I think I could share it to D. It was fun. Holy fucking Jesus Christ! I'm going up. Too much weight for this poor tractor. Yeah, D's got to watch it. You got to share it to D. D has to watch it. She might piss herself laughing. You guys are always giving Gary names. You guys can't make up your bloody mind what to name Gary. Whoa, shit. Easy, Topsy. I don't know if this tractor can do it. Yeah, you guys can't make up a name for Gary. You guys constantly change that poor guy's name all the fucking time. First it was Dave the Gary. Now it's Carrot Gary. You guys gotta stick to with one name for the poor guy. You know what? I'm on Gary's side. The fuck you women. You women are evil little dirt bags. Evil little fuckheads. That's what I gotta say. You women are evil little fuckers. I'm sticking to my story. You women are dirty little savages. Fucking savages. Dirty little fucking savages. Evil little fucking savages. That's what it is. Evil little fucking savages. Fucking cuss suckers. Yeah, you're about as innocent as a fucking 2x4. I swear if I can pound a nail in a 2x4, it'll be more innocent than you two women will ever be. Love it. I fucking love it. He brings it on himself. Fuck that bullshit. I'm on fucking. I don't give a fuck what you women say. I'm on Gary's side. Fuck you. Like they say, bros before hoes. Well, Gary's my bro, so fuck the hoes. Fuck the dirty hoes. Fucking dirty little savages. See, Nicole's trying to behave. You're on your own, D. Fucking bros before fucking hoes. That's what I gotta say. Bros before hoes. So Gary's my bro, and you guys are a bunch of little hoes. And that's my story, and I'm fucking sticking to it. Ain't nothing can change my mind. Fuck your shit, bitches. Y'all can suck my dick. Bros before hoes. Ain't nothing can change this man's mind. I think what I want to think, and I say what I want to say. If you don't like it too damn bad. I can see it's... D's probably messaging me right now. Don't you be calling me a hoe. Well, so say it there, sis. I just did. I just called you a hoe. Dun 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 dun. I'm lurking. Yeah, you're lurking all right. You're probably fucking in your bedroom using your vibrator. She don't need a man. She's got her toy. She's got a toy. Huh? No, I'm not. Sure, sure. That's what they all say. You know, when the kids go to bed, it's time to play. Mama's in her bedroom playing. I'm not like that. That's what they all fucking say. I'm not like that. I heard that one too many times. Oh, I'm not like that. No, no, no. Uh-huh. Sure. Tell me another white lie. Maybe if you tell enough white lies, your nose will stop growing. You're so full of shit that your nose just shits more shit. You tell more white lies than a rose. Fucking, I don't know. Something, I'll figure out something to say. She's 29 and full of shit. Shit. Yeah, today I'm gonna pick on everybody. Today's pick on everybody's day. And I happen to pick on two women. Because they think they're angels. Ha! Not like I haven't heard that every day, every time somebody gets picked up or something. I'm an angel. Yeah, sure you are. You're an angel that spread your fucking legs and you stand on the street. Oh, this is fun. I love picking on people. It's fun. I'm waiting for D to tell me off. It's gonna be like, finally you admitted that you're not an angel. Fuck, it's not that hard to figure out. Oh, that's Nicole. La 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 la. Yeah, you're ignoring me now. See, sis is ignoring me. She's going la 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 la. She's singing a lullaby. La 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 la. We all know both of you women aren't fucking angels. You guys are far from it. If you guys were the angels, I'm the fucking devil, and I'm gonna come fucking devilize your life. I'm gonna fuck your life right up. Oh fuck! It's Patrick, the fucking the fucking buffet. I should invite the dog so the dog can come eat Patrick up. Fucking Mr. Buffet man. That was fun. I can't believe I did that on live stream. Sorry, Patrick. Poor Patrick. Was just getting picked on last night by me and Danny. Fuck no, the dog is alive. Right on! I should go in there and bring the dog over. That was funny. I gotta admit, that was awesome. Hey, what's could be worse? It could have been Bean in there. Oh, did I? Oh, God, I better watch what I say. I didn't spawn Bean in here. How the fuck did I spawn Bean in here? I'll spawn whoever I want in here. Watch y'all fucking run for the hills. Run, bitches, run! Run like the bitch you are! Run! Run with your legs wide open! Let all the smell come out and attract all the dogs. Patrick, he can't stop laughing. Oh, you run for shit? Ooh. You're supposed to keep the shit in the toilet, not fucking run for it. Ugh, Pat. Oh, God. There's something wrong with Nicole, Patrick. She runs for shit. Supposed to keep the shit in the toilet, Nicole. Patrick, don't wet yourself from laughing so much. Fuck, that crazy fucker needs Depends. That's what he would need. Control his bowel movements. Fuck off. Let's just see how much hay bales are going for. I'm gonna drink my chocolate milk. Patrick, if there was a string between a woman's legs, I wouldn't be pulling that fucking string at all if there was one. Like, fuck. I'm real... I know, you can't stop talking about the fucking wedding. Jesus. God, I get you're fucking excited, but god damn, sis. Jesus Christ. Fucking. See, all these motherfuckers are running around fucking getting married. Fucking lucky pieces of shit. I fucking hate weddings anyways. Weddings are just a fucking piece of paper that says that a woman fucking owns you. That's my eyes. Once you fucking marry them, they fucking own you. That's all I gotta say. What makes the fucking difference? As soon as you marry the motherfuckers, they think they're Queen of fucking England. They fucking think they own you. Property of so and so. Fuck you. I ain't your fucking property. I'm my own fucking property. Then we already had this talk and we all congratulated her. God, sis, I get you're excited, but you need to like settle your vagina down a little bit. Jesus. God damn. I'm happy for you, but fuck. God, I might as well play my record player once in a while. The amount of times you say wedding, the amount of times my record player will be spinning 3,000 miles an hour. Fuck, I'm just in a fucking mood. I'm just... just fucking terrorizing D. Terrorizing D and Nicole. Just fucking... I'm just bugging you, D. I gotta get some amusement today. Fuck me. What a boring fucking day. Laying fucking flooring in a fucking apartment. Fucking Jesus. You know how boring that is? Doing flooring? That shit is both fucking boring. Okay, I'll quit picking on you ladies. God. It's all in fun. It's all in fun. I like picking on people. It's fun. Come on, you fucking asshole. Roll. Roll, you bitch. Roll. Okay, wow. I just scared Sister D away. Oh no. Guess I have to apologize. I picked on her too much. Fuck, this fucking sun is driving me fucking nuts. Goddamn fucking curtains. I better find some better curtains. These fucking things are just garbage. I can pick on you. Nah, I think I'm done picking on people. I just scared D away. Poor girl. Poor girl. Poor girl. I just ruined her thunder. I ruined her thunder. Fuck, man, that sun's driving me nuts. That's better. Anyhow, who wants to listen to some documentaries? I'm done picking on people. Danny T, what's up? You didn't bring that fucking dog, did you, Danny T? You didn't bring that fucking dog to swallow you whole? Or Patrick whole? Don't bring that dog, Danny T. God damn it. Fuck, I don't want Patrick to fucking disappear. Fucking Patrick might be gone. Good. I'm glad the dog is chained up. That son of a bitch is gonna quit eating. Shit. Didn't I say that? But no, Nicole's crazy. Yes, Nicole, you was right for that once. At least Nicole's not trying to take off her clothes while we're singing. Don't you be afraid to take her by the hand. You'll always be there for you. You never know. That's okay. She's my sweet wine. Thank you, Danny T. Let's see what I got for documentaries. Uh, I'm trying to find a documentary. Uh, let's see here. Holy shit, we got a lot of videos. Here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. Broadly speaking, manipulation is a special psychological technique that allows one to achieve personal goals without considering the partner's interests. Notably, a skilled manipulator can keep people they need close to them for years, using various tactics, methods, and approaches. In intimate relationships, such manipulation usually makes the other party doubt the correctness of their decisions, feel guilty, and can significantly undermine their self-esteem. Typically, relationships with a manipulator start off ideally, as these individuals know how to gain trust, charm, and win hearts. They appear caring, understanding, empathetic, and someone with whom one can share joys and sorrows at any time. Gradually, they probe your weaknesses and begin to exploit them. Sometimes, such individuals even commit serious crimes through others, in such a way that the manipulated person believes they are acting entirely of their own volition or for the greater good. The case of Nicole Lenue is not unique, but it serves as a vivid example of how a man can skillfully manipulate the emotions of women who are in love with him. He kept one lover from leaving for many years, destroying her emotional state with his actions and convincing her that she could not live without him. He persuaded another lover to commit a crime, convincing her it was a righteous act to save a child. He planned everything down to the last detail, but recordings from street surveillance cameras did not allow him to escape accountability. What is known about Nicole Lenue? Nicole, or simply Nikki Lenue Ford, was born on July 11, 1989, in the northern part of the U.S. in a small town in Minnesota. There is almost no information about her parents and early life in public sources. According to some reports, her father left the family when she was very young, and her mother raised her alone, striving to provide her daughter with everything necessary and a good education. Nikki was one of the top students in her school, and she was also actively involved in sports from a young age, particularly track and field and martial arts, in which she excelled. In her senior years of school, she decided that she wanted to dedicate her life to fighting crime and would serve in law enforcement. She did everything possible to successfully pass the exams and meet the physical standards required for admission to the police academy, graduating with honors. After finishing school and being admitted to the academy, Nicole moved from the small provincial town to the large metropolis of Minneapolis. In 2010, she was accepted into the Criminal Investigation Department of the main police headquarters in Minneapolis as an assistant investigator, and after several years of dedicated service, she was appointed as an investigator. Colleagues described her as a determined, goal-oriented woman and a fearless officer, ready to take risks. However, in her personal life, without realizing it, Nikki became a pawn in the hands of a sophisticated manipulator. The perfect start to a doomed relationship. In 2012, at a taekwondo competition, 23-year-old Nicole met a coach and martial arts master, Tim Amaher. The man was 8 years her senior, and initially didn't spark much interest in her. However, the slender young beauty with luxurious long hair and a charming smile immediately caught his attention. It's worth noting that Timothy was known as a ladies' man, with numerous romantic partners whom he frequently changed, and sometimes dated several women at the same time. He was skilled in winning over women he liked, and was not accustomed to rejections. Timothy also lived in Minneapolis, quickly found out where Nikki trained, and obtained her phone number. He initially offered her personal training services, but almost immediately began courting her, quickly winning over her heart. Nicole saw Tim as a kind, open, and charming man. She developed a sincere affection for him, and before she knew it, she had fallen deeply in love. Soon they started a romantic relationship and began dating. Initially, the man behaved gallantly, showed care, and made every effort to demonstrate that he was a reliable person one could depend on. Amaher was strong, intelligent, eloquent, and had the ability to dominate the women who fell in love with him. The relationship progressed rapidly, and after a month and a half, they decided to move in together and live under the same roof. The first 6 months went wonderfully, and Nicole felt happy and loved next to this person. She opened up and trusted him, believing there were no secrets between them. However, Timothy's behavior gradually began to change. He revealed his true nature, but he did so subtly enough that his chosen one was not alarmed for quite some time. The sophisticated tormentor Timothy was an attractive, witty, and charismatic man with a muscular build, enjoying success with the opposite gender, something he took great pride in. Even after entering into a serious relationship, he did not stop flirting with other women, often doing so in Nicole's presence, which deeply hurt her and made her feel humiliated. At first, Lenue hoped that over time her boyfriend would shake off his bachelor habits, become more restrained and settle down, but months passed and nothing changed. Meanwhile, Tim assured her that he loved only her, was passionate and tender as a partner, but outside the home, he did not miss a single opportunity to flirt and regularly engaged in affairs. Soon, Amaher became openly annoyed by his girlfriend's jealousy. He began to snap at her, stating that he would behave as he wanted, and she had no right to tell him otherwise. However, he usually apologized afterward, telling Nikki that no one would ever love her as much as he did, and she forgave him, continuing to make future plans. In the fall of 2014, during a minor domestic argument, Timothy unexpectedly flew into a rage, grabbed the girl by the throat, and squeezed so hard that she couldn't breathe and almost lost consciousness. Suddenly, he came to his senses, let Nicole go, and pushed her so hard that she fell, hitting a wall. At that moment, she realized that this was an unhealthy relationship that needed to be ended immediately. However, her emotional attachment to the man was too strong, and it only took another apology from him for her to forgive him. In addition to bouts of aggression and infidelity, another extremely unpleasant trait of Tim's came to light. He was extremely jealous and obsessed with control. The man monitored every step of his chosen one, took her phone without permission, checked her contact lists, messages in messengers and social networks, and kept a close eye on who she talked to and where she was. This continued for several years. Amaher could cause a scandal out of nowhere, unjustly accusing his beloved of infidelity, while he himself did not miss an opportunity to be unfaithful, often resorted to physical violence, but continued to convince Nicole that no one would ever love her as he did. If she ever attempted to leave, ending the relationship, the man resorted to blackmail, claiming that he would end his life, and it would be on her conscience. In November 2015, after another argument that ended in violence, Nikki packed her bags and, with a suitcase in hand, left the house. Timothy, who until the last moment did not believe she would do it, saw his partner leaving, chased her down outside, grabbed her by the hair, and dragged her back into the house. But the woman began to scream and struggle, attracting the attention.
Hey, if you're a renter in Canada and you're struggling with heavy credit card debt, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000,
of neighbors, and the man was forced to back down, letting her go. Vulnerable position. After so many years in abusive and manipulative relationships, Nicole could finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, Tim had no intention of leaving her alone. He merely switched tactics, moving from threats and blackmail back to romantic pursuits. He met her after work, sent flowers to her home via courier, wrote messages filled with tenderness, and pleaded for a chance to start over. For over a month, Nikki was resolute and had no plans to return to her former lover. But in December of that same year, she unexpectedly discovered that she was pregnant. This was certainly not in her plans, but the thought of not keeping the baby never crossed her mind. She knew that if her ex-boyfriend found out about her pregnancy, it would provide him with perfect leverage for manipulation in an attempt to win her back, so she tried to hide her pregnancy, but was unsuccessful. They still shared many mutual friends and acquaintances, so by January 2016, information about her expecting a child reached Timothy. There was no doubt about who the father was, prompting him to urge her to return to him, arguing that their child should be raised in a complete family. Nicole, who had grown up without a father herself, understood how challenging it would be for her and the baby, but she also realized that a life with a manipulator and simply a cruel person would not lead to anything good. She adamantly refused to return to her ex-boyfriend, though she still had feelings for him, but she noted that she would allow him to participate in the life and upbringing of their child. Nominal father. On June 20th, 2016, Nicole gave birth to a healthy boy whom she named Callahan Amaher, as her former lover acknowledged paternity and declared his readiness to raise the child with her. However, it soon became clear that giving the baby this man's surname and registering him as the parent was far from the best idea. Despite Tim's assurances that he would be a good father and his pleas to reunite so that Callahan could grow up in a complete family, in reality, he showed no interest in his son. The man had hoped that the child would become a reliable tool for manipulating his ex-girlfriend, but Nicole was no longer susceptible, and Amaher quickly lost interest in the baby. Lenue took nearly a year of maternity leave and devoted herself entirely to caring for her little son. She hadn't even thought about new relationships, immersing herself completely in motherhood. Meanwhile, Timothy continued his carefree life with numerous lovers and casual connections. It got to the point where he had a signal, a purple light in his bedroom. It meant that the homeowner was alone and expecting company. Any of his lovers could respond to this signal and drop by, after which the purple light would go out, signaling to others that Tim's bed was already taken. It was like something out of a red light district, but the man and his numerous partners were quite satisfied with this arrangement. Young lover and nanny rolled into one. In the same year of 2016, shortly after the birth of Callahan, 36-year-old Amaher moved in and began living with his 18-year-old protege named Colin Larson. He had been training the young woman since she was 14, and she was deeply in love with her mentor, despite the significant age difference. Initially, the couple hid their close relationship, and to outsiders, they claimed that Colin was just renting a room in his house. However, it soon became apparent to everyone that a fiery romance was unfolding between the coach and his ward. Timothy was thrilled with his young lover, and according to friends, the girl resembled a naive child, trying her hardest to impress the man she absolutely adored. By the summer of 2017, Nicole was forced to return to work. She was raising her child alone, as the boy's father was hardly any help, and the young mother simply ran out of money, prompting her to end her maternity leave early. At that time, she was working as a forensic expert at the main police headquarters in Minneapolis, and her work schedule could be unpredictable. During the day, little Callahan was in daycare, but if his mother was held up at work or called in unexpectedly, she would ask Timothy to look after their son. There were a few reasons for this. First, she believed it was beneficial for the boy to spend time with his father, who had recently vowed to be involved in his upbringing. Second, since her former lover was not helping financially, she thought he could at least save her the cost of nanny services. Amaher did not enjoy spending time with the child. It was a burden to him, and he was unwilling to take on the responsibility. Thus, he shifted it, along with all related troubles, onto his young lover. Colin quickly developed a fondness for the little boy and loved taking care of him. Thus, the man dumped his parental responsibilities on the girl, explaining it by telling her that Nicole was a bad mother who did not want to care for her child and was looking for any excuse to offload her son onto them. New boyfriend and the start of terror. In the spring of 2017, Nicole, for the first time since breaking up with Tim, entered into a romantic relationship. Her new partner was a fellow police officer named Donovan Ford. He treated his beloved with tenderness and care, and also felt paternal towards Callahan, expressing readiness to adopt the boy. Everything seemed wonderful, but that was until Amaher found out about his ex's new relationship. Timothy did not love Nicole, and had long stopped trying to establish any relationship with her, but the mere fact that she was now not alone and happy enraged him. it also ignited a furious desire to annoy or completely destroy these relationships. As his main weapon in this endeavor, he decided to use their son as well as the naive Colin, who believed every word he said. The child's father regularly reported to social services that Donovan was beating, tormenting, and treating his son cruelly, and that the boy's mother was doing nothing to stop it. As a result, Child Protective Services frequently visited the family. They never managed to confirm any instance of domestic violence, but each time Nicole and her new lover were interrogated like criminals. They knew who was trying to ruin their lives, but were powerless to stop it. And this continued for years. Simultaneously, Timothy kept convincing Colin that Callahan was in danger, that Nikki and Donovan were cruel to him, and that one day they might simply end his life in what they would claim was an accident. The girl believed her lover, felt terribly sorry for the boy who had literally grown up before her eyes, and was ready to protect him. Amaher literally harassed his ex and her new partner, threatened them, tried to provoke them, and even filed police reports claiming that these law enforcement officers were abusing their official powers, hoping they would be fired. Donovan tried to have a man-to-man talk with Timothy, but it yielded no results. The ex-boyfriend continued to terrorize his former girlfriend and her new boyfriend, turning their lives into a real nightmare. Battle for the little son. Tim decided not to stop at just threats and harassment, and soon took the matter to court, claiming his rights to the child and his desire for sole custody. Nicole did not anticipate this and was genuinely frightened, knowing her ex's ability to lie and manipulate. She understood that he didn't actually want his son. He just wanted to get back at her for her happiness with Donovan. At the same time, Lenue finally decided to seek a restraining order against Timothy, citing his erratic behavior and the threat he posed. She was confident that the custody issue would likely resolve in her favor, but she also realized that the legal battles could drag on for years, as Tim was not one to back down easily. Meanwhile, Timothy continued to poison his ex-girlfriend's life, concocting various fabrications. He even tried to accuse her of attempting on his life, claiming she had tried to run him over with her car. He claimed that he managed to jump away just in time and that Nicole only ran over his foot. Astonishingly, he took this case to court, but he couldn't prove anything since there were no witnesses, no camera footage, and importantly, no actual injury. In September 2022, the custody case went to court. The man once again tried to slander his former lover, accusing her of harming their child, and even secured support from Colin, who corroborated his story. He also tried to persuade little Callahan to say that his mom and Donovan were hitting him, but the child not only refused to lie, but also revealed that his father was coaxing him to lie by promising him sweets. The court took the child's account into consideration and awarded sole custody to the mother. Nicole was about to breathe a sigh of relief, but Timothy persisted and appealed the decision. Initially, he secured the right to see the child once a week under the mother's supervision, and later, he was allowed to spend time alone with the boy without Nicole's presence, which greatly upset and frightened her, as anything could be expected from him. Ultimately, after several more court appeals and to avoid further disputes, Amaher was allowed to see his son at a specialized family center designed to prevent parents in conflict from encountering each other and causing further psychological damage to the children. The facility had multiple separate parking lots and separate entrances. Thus, one parent could bring the child for the other parent to meet, but the ex-spouses did not interact or even see each other. The mysterious attacker. On April 19, 2022, when Nicole arrived at the family center to pick up her son after another visit with his father, something unforeseen happened. She parked her car and was heading towards the entrance, but she didn't make it inside. Suddenly, a person dressed in black clothing, a mask, and a hood approached her, pulled out a gun, and shot her 4 times at close range, then quickly disappeared in an unknown direction in a black pickup. Incredibly, Lenue not only remained conscious, but also managed to dial emergency services. However, she couldn't convey anything to the dispatcher. One of the bullets hit her neck, missing the carotid artery by 1 millimeter and damaging her vocal cords, so she could only make gurgling sounds. At that moment, A woman who happened to witness the event came to her aid. She was just passing by when she heard the shots and saw the fleeing black figure jump into a vehicle and disappear. The woman quickly pulled over, made sure the shooter had left, and then rushed to help the victim. She was the one who explained to the dispatcher what had happened, provided the address, and pressed her clothing against Nicole's wounds to stop the bleeding, saving her life. The victim spent several days teetering on the brink of life and death in a coma. She lost a lot of blood, and her vital organs were affected. But despite the severity of her injuries, doctors managed to stabilize her condition. Medical professionals believed Lenue was incredibly lucky, as death was only millimeters away from 2 bullets. One passed near an artery, and the other nearly struck her heart. The woman survived, and now it was necessary to figure out who wanted her dead. Crime suspect Nicole had no doubt that her ex-lover was the one who had shot her, which she reported to the police as soon as she regained consciousness. Earlier, while the woman was in a coma, Donovan had also informed the police that apart from Timothy, the victim had no other enemies. Amaher was indeed interrogated and checked first, but he had a solid alibi, as he was at the family center with his son at the time of the attack, confirmed by staff and internal surveillance footage. Simultaneously, the theory was investigated that someone among the criminals she had previously arrested and helped incarcerate might have organized the attack on the police officer and investigator. Undoubtedly, due to her profession, she could have had ill wishers, but Nicole herself was convinced that Timothy was involved in the assassination attempt. At the scene, 4 casings were found, and a camera at the nearest intersection captured a suspicious black Dodge Ram pickup running a red light without license plates. This same vehicle was mentioned by the eyewitness who had essentially saved the victim's life. Thus, it was necessary to check what vehicles Amaher owned. During another interrogation, the suspect mentioned that he had a Chevrolet Traverse SUV in his garage, and he also owned a Dodge Challenger. However, according to Timothy, he never had a pickup. Yet the investigation showed that the man was lying, and a black Dodge Ram, identical to the one used by the shooter, was registered in his name. Once the truth emerged, Amaher was arrested pending further investigation. When shown the surveillance footage, he recalled that he did indeed have such a vehicle, but claimed he rarely used it, and it mostly sat idle. Moreover, he noted that his pickup had colorful stickers on the doors and hood. This was verified, and indeed his vehicle had stickers, but they looked as though they had been applied just recently. Nonetheless, all the evidence was circumstantial, and law enforcement needed to find the weapon and the actual shooter to fully resolve the case. Naive executor of a sinister plan. It turned out that Timothy's vehicle was equipped with a satellite navigation system, which allowed the tracing of the vehicle's entire route on that day. It was discovered that the car was brought to the back entrance of a taekwondo school on the evening of April 18th. There, it remained all night and almost the entire next day. Road cameras traced that the vehicle arrived there with license plates, but by the next evening it left without them. The person who used the vehicle that day was of short stature, slight build, and from a distance, the silhouette appeared feminine. As a result, it was decided to immediately detain and interrogate Amaher's live-in girlfriend, Colin Larson. A search was also conducted at the couple's home, and although the weapon used in the crime was not found, law enforcement discovered ammunition of the same caliber used by the shooter. The frightened girl almost immediately began to give confessional testimony, confirming that Timothy was the mastermind behind the crime. However, Colin believed that her lover had acted with good intentions, thinking they were trying to radically save little Callahan from a cruel mother. Timothy had spent years manipulating his trusting young girlfriend, convincing her that the boy was being mistreated and subjected to violence, and she unquestioningly believed every word her lover said. She felt immensely sorry for the child, and believed that Timothy wished his son well and wanted to protect him. Trial and sentence. The trial of the conspirators began in November of the same year. Colin confessed that her lover had provided her with the firearm and had taken the pistol back after the assassination attempt and disposed of it, but she did not know what exactly he did with it. The prosecution was largely built on circumstantial evidence, a point that the defendant's lawyers emphasized. Nevertheless, the decisive factor was Colin's confession, who still could not believe that her lover had deceived her and believed that they were committing a righteous act. The court also considered the testimony of the victim herself about what kind of person Tim was and how skillfully he had always managed to manipulate the women who loved him. 42-year-old Timothy Amaher was found guilty of organizing a first-degree attempted murder, as well as incitement and aiding and abetting. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison, the maximum term for such cases. 24-year-old Colin Larson, as the executor, received 16 years in prison. A year after the assassination attempt, Nicole managed to fully recover physically and emotionally. She and Donovan officially legalized their relationship, and the man became the best father Callahan could ever wish for. The now married Ford couple is expecting their first child together, and the woman who saved Nicole's life then will be the child's godmother. Finally, it should be added that Tim Amaher, with good behavior, will be eligible for parole in 2035. However, he will be prohibited from coming within 100 meters of his son, former lover, and her family members, and from attempting any form of contact with them. Thanks for watching, guys.
Shop Michael's lowest prices of the season for up to 60% off thousands of items. Sale ends June 16th.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. This is not a story about Romeo and Juliet. Have you ever noticed how many worthy, talented, and magnanimous individuals pass away young? Some people, barely crossing into their 20s or 30s, leave this life suddenly. It often seems like there were no signs of impending trouble. They lived, worked, and planned for the future, just like everyone else. However, misfortune, illness, or criminal acts disrupt the usual order, and so those who once showed great promise and were intelligent and determined are now gone. In an attempt to find solace, or due to helplessness in the face of the situation, it's often said that the heavens take the best. This same tragedy struck Jamie and Peter James. None of them could have imagined the horrific ordeal that was to come, to bury their beloved daughter. Unexpected news. On October 26, 2023, around 4:30 a.m., the principal of St. Andrew's Cathedral School, located in central Sydney, sent out an email to all students' parents. It stated that the school would be closed until the end of the week due to a critical incident. 2 hours later, worried families received another notification. The administration assured that none of the students were involved. However, the news was unsettling, especially since it was later clarified that this directive did not apply to graduating students taking exams. For those distressed by the situation, psychological support was made available. Soon, a round-the-clock consultation center was set up in the school library. On Thursday and Friday, the school building and surrounding area were thoroughly searched by forensic teams. Access to the gym was restricted, and the adjacent shower area was slated for demolition soon. So what terrible event had occurred within the school walls? A corpse in the shower. Around midnight on October 25th, 2023, the body of a 20-year-old woman was found. She had last been seen alive at 7 p.m. The water polo coach had entered the gym's shower and never came out. Surveillance cameras recorded someone following her. Around 8 p.m., the pursuer left alone and headed towards the school exit. The woman's parents were the first to raise an alarm about her disappearance. Lily had been uncontactable all day, and at 10 p.m., she sent a message asking to be picked up from work. Fortunately, the police, already informed about the situation, took care of it instead. The night guard, making his rounds, witnessed a horrific scene. A woman lay in a pool of blood on the floor with a shattered head. After recovering from the initial shock, he called emergency services. Later, detectives invited a family friend for body identification. The woman's face was so disfigured that it was hard to recognize the once beloved Miss James. After the news of her death reached the public, her home was filled with people. Friends, neighbors, and acquaintances came to support her grieving family. Local residents also expressed their sorrow and respect for the prematurely departed, continuously bringing flowers and toys, turning the area around the house into a memorial. Yet this mysterious death was not the only intrigue in this case. Another tragic loss. On October 27th at 8 a.m., just 11 miles from the scene of the first crime, the remains of a man were discovered. This grim find was made by vendors working nearby. The body was located on the rocks of Diamond Bay Reserve, close to Vaucluse, an eastern suburb of Sydney. After a call to the police, a rescue team was promptly assembled. The operation included a bomb squad, Marine Corps, and a rescue helicopter. At 3:30 p.m., the man's body was retrieved and taken to forensic experts for identification. Due to the injuries sustained from a high fall, visual inspection was not possible, so fingerprints were used for this purpose. At that time, experts suspected the identity of the man. However, confirmation was needed for certainty. Eventually, the man was identified as 24-year-old Paul Thiessen, who was suspected in the crime against Lily James. Investigators had a challenging task ahead: to draw parallels between the two fatal incidents and to uncover what had happened between these individuals a few days earlier. A diamond among the stones, Lily was born in the last spring month of 2002 in the coastal town of Sans Souci, New South Wales, Australia. She was the first and cherished child of the close-knit James family. She was especially adored by Barbara, her maternal grandmother. Lily spent her childhood with her younger brother Max by the ocean. She was very active and enduring, with a passion for swimming. Her father, who coached the water polo team at an Anglican girls' school in Hurstville, supported his daughter's interest. Friends recalled that she was sociable and friendly, excelled in her studies, and helped those who were struggling. These qualities endeared her to many, ensuring she was never alone. In her upper school years, thanks to her achievements in academics, sports, and community life, she was recognized as one of the best students. Whatever she took on, she succeeded in. Her incredible talent to excel in all areas of activity was undeniable. She also had an interest in the dramatic arts, which led her to participate in the theater and dance club. Over time, the talented young woman was noticed and invited to participate in the famous Woodford Folk Festival, one of Australia's largest annual events, attended by around 125,000 people, including local, national, and international guests. The event usually takes place from December 27th to January 1st, marking the New Year's celebration. With a broad selection of genres and styles like circus, cabaret, comedy, street performances, workshops, debates, and more, Lily chose to perform a unique rendition of a monologue from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. During the performance, her skills, natural charisma, and allure were fully displayed. Receiving unprecedented applause and approval from the jury, she secured second place in the theater category. This was a true success and a great boost, as our heroine not only gained recognition, but also a significant monetary prize. In 2018, the young Miss James added another achievement to her collection. She passed her beginner's driving test. Her athletic successes deserve special mention, too. Following in her father's footsteps, she began to pursue water polo professionally. The athlete earned the title of swimming champion in the under-17 category. Understandably, her parents were thrilled with their daughter's successes and celebrated each accomplishment grandly. By her senior year, Lily had
There's some new players in town, and they brought the play through.
Got my attention.
definitively decided on her future life, focusing on a sports career. Thus, in 2020, she enrolled at Sydney Technological University to pursue a bachelor's degree in sports business management. A fateful encounter. At the beginning of 2021, a new chapter began in our heroine's life. To spice up her college routine and gain teaching experience, she took a job as a water polo coach at St. Andrew's Cathedral School. Thanks to her youth, vibrant personality, and love for sports, She quickly connected not only with her colleagues and administration, but also with the group she was entrusted with. The students were drawn to her, striving to match her standards. In turn, she tried to find a unique approach to each student and highlight something special. It was during this time that Lily met the new cricket and hockey coach, Paul Thiessen. With his professional skills and striking appearance, he quickly caught the attention of those around him. The ambitious young man, in addition to his main job, also taught part-time at another educational institution and was a member of the University of New South Wales hockey team. Paul was undoubtedly popular, especially among female audiences. However, opinions about him were mixed. Some described him as proud and headstrong, while others noted his positive traits. Initially, the interaction between Lily and Paul was friendly and limited to mutual greetings. However, it later developed into something more. Lily's friends shared that one day the young man asked her out on a date. Given Paul's dazzling smile, it was hard for her to resist, and she agreed. The date made a strong impression on both, and they decided to meet again. Unaware of whom she was becoming involved with, Lily, due to her own kindness and openness, fell in love. It seemed that Paul reciprocated her feelings. He showered her with compliments, gave her flowers, and organized evenings together. At that moment, the young couple agreed that no one at the school, especially the students, should know about their warm relationship. This was a requirement of the school's policy and Lily's personal beliefs. She never wanted her personal life to be public. Therefore, at work, the couple was cautious. However, over time, rumors began to spread. Initially, timid whispers turned into a full-blown public discussion. When Lily found out who had disclosed their relationship, she was deeply disappointed. It turned out that Paul had broken their agreement. Moreover, the way he portrayed his companion led to condemnation towards the young employee. She felt betrayed and humiliated, so she confronted her boyfriend about everything she thought of him and ended the relationship. Later, it was learned that Paul tried to reconcile and repeatedly asked for forgiveness, but Lily was resolute. The only consolation for her was that their relationship was short-lived. During that time, she had seen his true character. Fortune's favorite, Paul, was born in 1999 in the Netherlands. The Thiessens moved to Australia in 2015 when the family head was transferred to a new position. It must be said that his parents were affluent and well-known within certain circles. As an only child, Paul received ample attention and care from his family, which certainly shaped his character. He grew up spoiled and self-centered. The younger Thiessen knew his worth, excelled academically, and was active in sports. His impressive physical fitness was immediately noticeable. After relocating, Paul enrolled at St. Andrew's Cathedral School, where he joined the cricket team. He achieved great success, earning recognition and respect from his peers. Over time, he was appointed team captain. He also actively participated in extracurricular activities and festivals, helping with their organization. That's when opinions about him began to diverge. Some boys disliked their overly confident peer, who claimed he could win over any girl's heart. However, the ladies found the young man charming and personable. After graduating in 2017, the school administration offered him the opportunity to stay on as an assistant coach for cricket and hockey. He gladly accepted the offer. By early 2018, he had taken over managing these sections. It must be said that he felt confident in his workplace and successfully assumed a leadership position. Eventually, Paul resigned and returned home with his family. The reason for his sudden departure remains unknown. Back home, he decided to continue his education and earned a master's degree in sports management. In a conversation with old friends, he mentioned that he had improved his coaching skills, which soon led to a lucrative offer from his former employer. In early 2020, the doors of the familiar school reopened for him. Upon returning to Australia, Paul met a former friend who suggested they share housing expenses. The young man agreed, finding shared living more enjoyable, even though he could afford to rent alone economically. The rented apartment was located in Kensington, an eastern suburb of Sydney. Initially, the friends got along well, relaxing together at bars after work. However, a few months later, a conflict arose. The fiery Paul decided to live alone. The Thiessens confessed that despite being busy and constantly surrounded by people, their son felt lonely. They knew nothing of any romantic relationships, though they suspected he had not experienced serious love interests. In March 2020, an unexpected event occurred both nationally and globally. Due to a coronavirus outbreak, Australia declared an emergency and imposed strict quarantine measures. For 18 months, Paul was left to his own devices, unable to leave the country to see his family due to infection risks. The massive restrictions affected all areas of life, leaving Paul to fend for himself. By the summer of 2021, life had returned to normal. However, it turned out that isolation had impacted interpersonal relationships. When Paul resumed his previous duties, some began to notice changes in his character and behavior. He soon returned to the sports world and became a key player on the hockey team, continuing to lead an active lifestyle, even appearing in match advertisements. At the same time, acquaintances noted characteristics not previously seen in him, such as uncontrollable outbursts of anger. Additionally, rumors spread at the school that he had a particular interest in his female students. The young coach repeatedly flirted with teenage girls, often watching them for extended periods, causing them to blush and feel awkward. Nevertheless, Thiessen continued to be regarded as a significant figure. His performance had a substantial impact on the team's progression to the finals of the Australian Hockey League. Imagine the blow to his ego when Lily ended their relationship. Following Paul's trail. When investigators began probing the case, there was no doubt about Paul's involvement. After the discovery of a woman's body, they quickly got on the trail of the culprit. Surveillance cameras, both inside and outside, played a significant role in this. The young man carelessly appeared on them. Several inquiries were also made to Lily and Paul's cell service provider. The police needed to determine his last known location, so they decided to track the suspect via GPS. They also wanted to find the victim's phone, hoping that the messages it contained could shed light on what had happened. After some time, the locations of the devices were established. Furthermore, by reconstructing the sequence of events, it was discovered that Paul had bought a hammer at a hardware store a couple of days before the attack. Apparently, he was very angry with the girl and decided to confront her in this way. Although her innocence in the situation seemed clear, the sequence of events unfolded as follows. Tragic conclusion. On the morning of October 25th, Lily went to university and then to her job in the afternoon. At the same time, her ex-boyfriend rented a silver Lexus and drove to the school. Since he had no classes, he didn't enter the building but waited in the car instead. After all the students had left the building, the perpetrator walked to the gym. To avoid carrying the hammer openly, he hid it under his jacket. Once at the scene, Paul watched Lily's movements. After finishing her training, she decided to freshen up and headed to the shower. Seizing the moment when she was most vulnerable, the perpetrator followed her. An argument ensued, during which Thiessen attacked her and struck her head. Pathologists confirmed that her death was instantaneous. She did not suffer. After waiting an hour, the young man collected the girl's personal belongings in a backpack and left the building. Outside, he got into the car and drove to Diamond Bay, where he disposed of the weapon in a garbage container. Surveillance cameras recorded him at the reserve at 8:47 p.m. The last known location of Paul, tracked by investigators, was The Gap, a cliff at South Head in Vaucluse, an eastern suburb of Sydney. This spot is known for several reasons. It's not only popular with tourists, but also notorious for numerous suicides. Around 10 p.m., using Lily's phone, Paul sent a message to Mr. James, likely to lead to the discovery of the girl's body. Perhaps he regretted what had happened and hoped she could be helped, or he was simply informing her parents about their daughter's location. They were clearly worried, as indicated by dozens of calls made to the phone. An hour later, the young man made a brief emergency call, but changed his mind and hung up. After that, he made a decision he had been contemplating for a long time. He stepped into the abyss and ended his life. Final clues. Upon arriving at the cliff, police did not find the young man, but they did discover the personal belongings of the former lovers. A rented car was found parked nearby. Everything indicated that the young man was no longer alive. He might have been unable to cope with his guilt, or unwilling to face the consequences of his actions. In any case, the first priority was to locate his body. On October 26th at 9 a.m., police helicopters and boats arrived at Vaucluse. The entire coastline was patrolled, and the area around the cliff at Diamond Bay was cordoned off. However, the first day of searching yielded no results. By chance, the young man's body was washed onto the rocks of the reserve the following day. After an autopsy and examination, Paul Thiessen was officially declared responsible for Lily James's demise. However, it was impossible to hold him accountable, and the criminal case was closed. His body was later given to his parents, who decided not to repatriate him to the Netherlands, but to cremate him and scatter his ashes in Sydney. Farewell. Lily's funeral took place on November 17th, 2023, at her former school in Hurstville. About 500 people came to say goodbye to a beloved relative, friend, and coach. At that moment, grief united everyone. The school administration arranged a live broadcast of the ceremony. Notably, the girl's family asked attendees not to wear dark clothes, but instead to dress in bright colors, as they believed Lily would have wanted. She was lively, energetic, creative, and unique, so a somber outfit would hardly have suited her. Many warm and sincere words were spoken about her. In response, the James family thanked everyone who had been with them during those difficult days for their support and help. At the entrance to the building, students and colleagues created a makeshift memorial in honor of their favorite. Flowers and farewell letters were placed next to it. As a tribute and respect, the school's website published a video of Lily performing a monologue from Macbeth. Conclusions. After all the circumstances of the innocent girl's death were established, the school management sent another email to the students' parents. It apologized to everyone affected by the tragedy. The principal assured that the crime was completely unexpected and would not happen again. Understandably, many were concerned that a place where children should feel safe had become the epicenter of a brutal act. The administration urged everyone to see this as an isolated incident and to continue their education with renewed vigor. Later, a meeting was arranged with renowned forensic psychologist Tim Watson-Monroe, who has years of experience in analyzing the minds of both criminals and victims. He was asked to speak about what happened and to analyze Paul Thiessen's behavior. The expert assured that Paul's actions were typical of individuals with inflated self-esteem who cannot accept rejection. He believed Paul committed the act not in a burst of emotion, but deliberately and coldly. He did what he wanted and showed no remorse. When asked why the young man ended his life, Mr. Watson-Monroe stated that the perpetrator wanted to avoid responsibility and shame. Overall, he described Paul as a narcissistic individual with psychopathic tendencies. He also noted that some likened the event to the finale of Shakespeare's famous tragedy, Romeo and Juliet. However, the story of Lily and Paul is distinct from that of the main characters in the play and creates a completely new narrative. Love has no room for pride and lies, much less deceit and betrayal. Sadly, Paul failed to understand this and to appreciate the person who was by his side. By prioritizing his bruised ego, he permanently erased the life of a girl who brought light. At the same time, he caused enduring suffering not only for Lily's parents, but also for his own loved ones. Unfortunately, for the nurturing, care, and attention he received, he repaid them with bitter regret. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel. There are many shocking stories ahead of you.
Like empires, prices rise and fall.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. Disciples of Darkness. The city of Welcome in the Free State Province is the youngest and most dynamically developing city in South Africa. It was founded in 1947, following the discovery of the largest gold deposit in the area the previous year. Its name translates from Afrikaans, one of the country's official languages, as greeting. Despite its welcoming name and its industry-forming gold mining, it gained widespread attention due to a grievous crime that occurred there in 2011. When the criminals were identified, the prosecution was baffled. This notorious case became the 10th in the history of international criminal activity. During the investigation, it was discovered that the case involved followers of Satanism and occultism. Michael Van Eck was born on August 14, 1987, in the young and developing city for gold miners. He became the only brother to 4 sisters: Natasha, Michelle, Bianca, and Hendriana. The boy grew up in a large and close-knit family. His parents were caring and loving people. To provide a decent life for their children, the head of the family worked hard and organized his own business. The mother created a favorable atmosphere in the home for the growth and development of the younger generation. Michael was sociable and kind, showed diligence in school and sports. He even earned a black belt in karate, which he was very proud of. This gave him confidence and resilience. After finishing school, the young man trained as an electrician. This in-demand profession opened the doors to good earnings and promising work. The young man worked in his field at mine number 4 of the Beatrix mine in the small town of Unison. He did not stop there and continued his education to become an engineer. In 2011, the 23-year-old hero of our story registered on a dating site. In this way, he wanted to distract himself from a breakup and make new acquaintances. It seemed that luck smiled at him one day. Among the numerous photos and profiles, a lonely young man took a fancy to the profile of a sweet and smiling girl. During the ensuing correspondence, the guy learned that their interests coincided. She, like him, disliked noisy parties and drunk companies and wanted to find true love and build a strong family. Michael was pleasantly surprised that he could find a suitable candidate on the internet. Since the young man still lived with his parents, he shared his joys and concerns with his mother. On April 2nd, the son boasted to her that he was going on a date, and he prepared thoroughly for it. To please the girl, he withdrew his first paycheck of 1,000 rand from his card. The only thing that troubled the young man was the unusual place his friend chose for their first meeting. It was the city cemetery. Apparently not to worry his parents, he kept quiet about it. Around 9 p.m. that same day, Michael said goodbye to his family and left the house. He headed to the designated place in a silver Peugeot 207, a gift from his parents for his coming of age. As tradition demanded, the girl was a little late, but her appearance was impressive. The stranger from the internet arrived in a pristine white dress and smiled. The conversation was relaxed, after which she suggested continuing the evening further and invited the young man to a distant part of the cemetery. There, a meadow awaited them with a spread blanket. On it lay a basket of fruits and wine. After the young people had a glass each, the beautiful companion kissed a stunned Michael. Suddenly, the pleasant feeling of the kiss turned to pain and horror. The unsuspecting young man became part of a sinister plan. Since the innocent appearance of his pen pal did not match her inner world, Chana Van Heerden was born in 1991 during a crisis period for her parents. When her mother found out she was pregnant, the couple decided to delay their divorce and give their relationship another chance. However, their attempts to reconcile and improve their life together were unsuccessful. The family environment only worsened. Her mother openly disliked the little girl, seeing her as a tie to her husband. After the divorce, she took the children and moved away from her former husband. However, the failed marriage was not the main reason for her coldness. She continued to lack love and attention towards her children, even after the relationship ended. All 3 children felt lonely and misunderstood, but Chana suffered the most. She grew up withdrawn and sullen. From an early age, she exhibited psychological issues. She talked about death and drew incomprehensible pictures. Eventually, the little girl developed an imaginary friend named Azazel. Concerned about their daughter's behavior, her grandparents thought she was possessed. Thus, they decided to take her to church, where she underwent an exorcism ritual. According to a witness, her body convulsed during the prayers. In reality, Chana was scared of crowds and clearly frightened by the ordeal. The shock could have triggered an epileptic seizure. The traumatic event deeply impacted the young girl's memory, causing her to develop a fear of the dark. Additionally, her mother once told her that toys come to life at night, which led the frightened daughter to tape her doll's eyes shut and tie their bodies with shoelaces. As she grew older, her mental condition worsened. At age 10, she nearly harmed a house guest with a knife while visiting her father. Only after this incident did they seek psychiatric help for Chana. Following a specialist's evaluation, she was prescribed sedatives. The medication had a positive effect on her mood and well-being. She became calmer and more friendly. During a remission period, her father spent more time with his daughter. He often picked her up from school and took her hunting with him. By sharing his hobby, he aimed to give her the attention she lacked. The unstable teenager enjoyed her father's activity. She later confessed that she found pleasure in butchering carcasses and skinning animals. This led her to bring home dead animals, starting with rats and birds and eventually progressing to cats and dogs. She enjoyed cutting flesh and occasionally inflicted injuries on herself. During an investigation, her sister revealed that at age 12, Chana befriended an older man who introduced her to forbidden substances and took advantage of her condition. Her sisters did not inform their parents, but Chana ended the destructive relationship. This experience undoubtedly had a negative impact on her troubled psyche. At age 15, her mother moved to New Zealand, where she met another man and stayed with him. Over time, she never returned for her children. They remained with their father and stepmother, who tried their best to provide for the children, though they did not fully understand the severity of the youngest daughter's issues. Her behavior was largely attributed to adolescence. The situation worsened a year later, when Chana became involved with a 22-year-old young man interested in Satanism, occultism, and voodoo cults. The boyfriend became a real mentor to the impressionable young woman, but he was cruel in character, often suppressing and demeaning her. Nonetheless, a supportive family environment and psychotherapy yielded positive results. By her 17th birthday, Chana's life began to improve. She broke off dangerous connections, graduated from high school, and enrolled in college where she studied art and graphic design. After Chana lost interest in Satanism and stopped using forbidden substances, her emotional state improved. She excelled in her studies and secured a job in her field. At her new job, Chana found support not only from her colleagues, but also from management. It turned out she had a real talent for visual arts, which brought her respect and recognition in her professional field. At the same time, she started dating a man named Warren. To outsiders, her life appeared completely normal. Her family and close friends did not discuss her past, hoping that the difficult times were behind her. However, what was happening in her soul was hard to say. Perhaps her inner demons were merely lying dormant. Her father was the happiest for Chana. He hoped that she had finally matured and would soon marry. However, his expectations were not met. The obstacle emerged from an unexpected source. Warren had a friend named Roy, who considered himself highly sensitive. Despite Chana's sweet and friendly demeanor, he sensed something repellent and malevolent in her. Yet Roy's words were not taken seriously, as her outward appearance did not match his perceptions. One day, he pulled her aside and asked, "Who is Norman?" Each time he saw her, this name popped into the clairvoyant's mind. The young man thought she might not be faithful to his friend, so he decided to ask her directly. In response, Chana unexpectedly spat in his face and demanded he stop bothering her with foolish questions. It later became known that Norman was the second name of Azazel, her imaginary childhood friend. Following the incident, the dynamics between the young people changed. At one of the parties, Chana's attention shifted to a 24-year-old named Martins. Although the young man was generally calm and sociable, there were unpleasant rumors about him. Martins van der Merwe. Martins van der Merwe was born into a well-off and respected family. Unlike Chana, he had excellent relationships with both parents. As a child, he was smart and well-mannered, performing well academically. However, it turned out that since the age of 6, he had been suffering from a mental illness. Around that time, he began experiencing hallucinations. His parents recounted that according to their son, a certain entity appeared to him, convincing the boy that he was endowed with incredible strength. Martins believed this and felt special. Gradually, his mental condition worsened and his behavior changed. Due to problems at school and home, at the age of 14, Vander Merwe was hospitalized in a psychiatric facility. There, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Unfortunately, conventional treatment did not help. Since the family was financially secure, his parents dedicated all their efforts to finding effective medications. Thanks to the efforts of both family and doctors, the necessary drugs were eventually found. With these, nearly all deviations were controlled, except for sporadic outbursts of aggression. Martins once witnessed a stray cat being mauled by dogs. It made a deep impression on him. Instead of feeling disgust or pity, he hid the animal's body and watched it. This led him to start torturing animals. He later dropped out of school and began helping his father in the carpentry shop. In the future, Martins dreamed of continuing the family tradition. While working, his condition improved. He no longer wanted to do bad things to animals and take their lives. For this reason, he stopped taking medication.
You ever just look at them and think, yeah, I'm doing all right.
Stay 3 nights. Get 10,000 bonus points at Best Western.
Everyone was wary of his decision, but the young man insisted that the disease had receded and that he was in control. Unfortunately, this turned out to be an inevitable mistake: general insanity. His mental state gradually deteriorated. It was around this time that Martins met Chana. These unstable young people found each other and began dating. However, outwardly they looked happy, so their parents were happy with their relationship. Of course, neither of them admitted to the problems their children had faced in the past. In the end, their union led to horrifying consequences. At first, the couple was open to the outside world, socializing and attending parties. Acquaintances recalled that they sometimes noticed cuts on the hands of young people. They joked that they were engaged in intimate experiments. After that, they began to distance themselves from people. They became interested in Satanism, voodoo cults, and occult practices. They also became interested in infamous serial criminals. In February 2011, Martins posted a picture with Chana on one of his social media pages. The pair were hugging, and the caption under the photo read, "Killers," with an ambiguous emoji. At the time, no one took their post seriously. Eventually, the young man asked his girlfriend's father for a marriage license. Mr. Van Heerden was incredibly happy. No one could have imagined what terrible dreams the couple nurtured. Instead of dreaming of traveling and children, they wanted to end their lives. Gradually, their sick fantasies turned into a bloodthirsty plan. The crazy couple decided to torture the homeless to death, and they practiced on animals. However, their plan was never realized, as the criminals could not find a suitable victim. Their monstrous plan was waiting for the right moment. The encounter. It all began when Chana posted her profile on a dating site. Before long, a young man named Michael Van Eck responded. The attractive young man caught the interest of the nefarious couple, and Chana targeted him for their plans. From the very first messages, the young people started flirting. After a few days of communication, the girl suggested they meet. Michael had been looking forward to this, but he hadn't expected it to come so soon or directly from her. Unfortunately, the somewhat unusual location for their first date didn't raise any alarms for him. Apparently, he was so eager to meet the charming conversationalist from the internet in person that he agreed to the dubious proposal. Chana and Martins meticulously prepared to bring their wild dream to life. They thought through everything thoroughly: the attire, the means to end a life, and even the setting. Chana approached the date fully prepared. The trap. The long-awaited meeting went exactly as planned for both parties. The victim fell for the bait. An angelic appearance of the girl and a kiss lulled his alertness. This gesture was the agreed-upon signal for Martins. All this time, the man had been hiding behind the tombstones. He approached Michael from behind and struck him with a knife. Unexpectedly for everyone, the young man resisted. The attackers hadn't anticipated this. Noticing that their new acquaintance was putting up a desperate fight, Chana intervened. Altogether, they inflicted about 30 knife wounds on the unfortunate young man. Ultimately, completely weakened, Michael begged them to end his suffering. Pleased with their conquest, Martin slit his throat. After that, the unthinkable began. The perpetrators dragged the body onto the blanket and proceeded with their plan. The couple severed the young man's right and left legs at the knee and decapitated him. The severed parts were placed in bags. They then decided to hide the body at the site. However, they miscalculated one thing. They had no shovels. Thus, they had to dig the earth with their hands and knives. As a result, they could not make the grave deep enough. After burying the body halfway, the perpetrators left with their trophies. Along the way, they used the victim's vehicle. Martins initially took the wheel, but later handed control over to his companion. The surge of adrenaline prevented him from keeping his eyes on the road. Upon arriving home, they stored the bags with body parts in the refrigerator, as if they were groceries. After Van der Merwe had somewhat recovered, he started Michael's car and drove it to a troubled neighborhood. The criminals hoped the car would be stolen, so he left it unlocked with the keys in the ignition. The victim. The next day, a cemetery worker noticed a fresh burial that wasn't there the day before. His dreadful suspicions were confirmed when he stumbled upon bloody traces and torn clothing in the bushes. He then called over his supervisor to examine the grave. What the unintended witnesses found would long remain etched in their memory. Beneath the soil lay a dismembered male body. The authorities were immediately notified of the grim discovery. At the same time, Michael's parents were beside themselves with worry. Since the previous evening, he hadn't responded to calls, even if it was presumed that he had stayed overnight at his internet girlfriend's place. He should have made contact by now. Instead, Michael's workplace called his parents. The concerned management wanted to understand why he was absent from a crucial site. At the same time, the police received a report about a Peugeot 207 found abandoned in a parking lot. Passers-by were alarmed by the bloodstains on the trunk. After running the vehicle through their database, the owner was identified. Detectives also tracked that before its discovery, the car had been at the cemetery for a long time. The local precinct was already aware of an unidentified body found on its grounds. All signs were suspicious. Armed with this information, law enforcement officials went to the residence of Michael Van Eck. Upon arrival, the officers confirmed their suspicions. His parents had been searching for the young man since the previous day. They asked Michael's mother to come to the cemetery, where forensic specialists and search dogs were already at work, desperately trying to locate missing body parts. At the scene, the woman recognized belongings found, and she also identified her son's body by distinctive burn marks he had sustained in childhood. During the autopsy, the medical examination confirmed that the young man had suffered numerous knife wounds. Signs of his struggle were evident. It was also determined that the body had been dismembered post-mortem. At least the perpetrators had the mercy not to do this while he was still alive. Meanwhile, experts noted that the dismemberment was performed with professional precision, indicating that the perpetrators had significant experience in this area. There was no doubt that multiple attackers were involved. The number of wounds, their nature, and the strength required to subdue the victim clearly demonstrated this. Ultimately, DNA testing confirmed the identity of 23-year-old Michael Van Eck. Time to gather stones. During the investigation, police confiscated the victim's cell phone and computer. It was established that the last person the young man had communicated with was Chana Van Heerden. According to their messages, she was the one who invited him to the ominous date at the cemetery. Subsequently, detectives contacted the potential suspect and invited her to give a statement. The young woman did not refuse and arrived with her boyfriend, Martins Van der Merwe. The couple was interviewed separately. During the questioning, they confessed to being involved in the group ending of a life. Upon learning of the incident, the girl's father rushed to the station. He couldn't believe what he was hearing and asked his daughter if she really was involved in the accusations against her. Chana calmly confirmed and added that she would willingly do it again. She claimed she had dreamt of this ever since she started hunting with him. The cruel confession of the seemingly sweet girl shocked not only her father but everyone present. Her boyfriend Martins also behaved defiantly. As the case gained public attention, he did not hide his pleasure from the public scrutiny and posed for the cameras. It was clear that none of the accused felt remorse for their actions. It turned out that after the crime, if caught, the mad couple planned to end their lives. But the young man changed his mind, and his partner followed suit. They wanted to live, the lair of monsters. During the search of the young couple's apartment, police felt uneasy, to say the least. The environment was horrifying. The walls were adorned with portraits of Chana, depicting her in various guises. In some, she was depicted without eyes, in others without a mouth or ears. All images of the girl were distorted. Additionally, the rooms contained ritual items, animal scalps, knives, and various objects of unclear purpose. Also found were belongings of the deceased young man, glasses, and a wallet. As Martins later confessed, they took Michael's money to buy necessary items for their next crime. However, the most horrifying discovery awaited in the refrigerator. From it, police retrieved Michael's head with the mouth sewn shut. It was assumed that the couple planned to use the young man's head as a ritual bowl later on. Eyes and ears of the victim were stored in separate containers. The victim's hand and leg were found buried near the murderer's home, alongside the bodies of various animals. The girl's diary contained horrific thoughts and their impending realization. From everything discovered during the inspection, it was clear that the couple planned not just one more crime. The process of ending lives and subsequent mutilation of bodies provided them with unimaginable pleasure. Martins and Chana underwent multiple evaluations for mental competence. Fortunately, the commission confirmed that the young individuals were aware of their actions and desired the inevitable consequences. Otherwise, they might have avoided punishment and received only mandatory treatment. Punishment. In November 2011, the trial concerning Chana took place, treating her as a serial offender. Despite this being a singular incident, she did not hide her desire to repeat her actions. She told the court that she understands she should feel shame or remorse, but for some reason, she does not. She can only grasp the gravity of her actions through societal standards and the reactions of others. Psychiatrists declared that the defendant suffers from psychopathic and antisocial disorders, apparently more dangerous than her boyfriend, but adept at concealing it. Throughout the sentencing, she remained impassive. Chana Van Heerden was found guilty and sentenced to 35 years in prison without the possibility of parole. 20 years for ending a life and an additional 15 for robbery and dismemberment. As for Martins van der Merwe, unlike his partner, he defended himself in court. He claimed not to remember the events that occurred until he found himself in jail and behaved arrogantly and aggressively. The defendant admitted to studying Satanism and occultism, trying to understand life and death. He said his relationship with Chana pushed them both towards committing the crime. During the trial, he apologized to the victim's parents, although his words sounded insincere. He implied that the victim was simply at the wrong place at the wrong time, although in reality, the mad couple had lured the unfortunate man into a premeditated trap. Michael's mother could not contain her distress and struck the accused during one of the sessions. Ultimately, Martins van der Merwe was also found guilty of the charges against him and sentenced to 35 years in prison, but with a chance for parole after serving half of his sentence. Life after. Until 2014, the lovers kept in touch behind bars. In his letters, Martins called Chana a dark goddess, writing, "Lady Blackmore, when you part your lips, words of a dead butterfly spill out. They fall upon my mystical heart and paint it with sweet poison, spreading beautiful darkness through my empty veins." Over time, Chana ended the relationship with her former lover, feeling that they had grown cold and distant from each other. It is known that in prison the woman behaves exemplarily, teaching her fellow inmates art and theology. Collectors fascinated by the lives of humanity's worst, maniacs, offenders, cannibals, have paid large sums for a photograph of the woman with her autograph, as well as a print of her hand. Remarkably, Martins also developed his own fan club. For a long time, police monitored his followers to prevent them from emulating his actions. The convicted man continued treatment and completed his education through correspondence courses. Thus, a good-natured young man became the victim of a terrible scheme by two mentally unstable individuals. Driven by their own desires, lacking restraining mechanisms and societal norms, the perpetrators decided they had the right to take another person's life. Yet what is also monstrous in this story is how many troubled individuals there are among us. Sometimes behind an innocent facade lies sheer hell. New acquaintances do not always positively affect our lives. Sometimes they can mark a point of no return. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel. There are many shocking stories ahead of.
Hey, if you're a renter in Canada and you're struggling with heavy credit card debt, $10, $20, $30,000.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. And today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. How a plumbing clog led to the solving of a series of violent crimes. Many crimes, unfortunately, remain unsolved for various reasons. According to forensic experts, this often happens if not all theories are considered, or if one of the theories wasn't fully explored. Thus, grieving families sometimes never learn the secret of a loved one's disappearance or the cause of their demise. However, occasionally crimes are uncovered over time, often by complete chance. The investigation into the crime against teenage girl Rory Rush began with a call to a plumber due to a clogged sewer line, which led to the discovery of several brutal acts against schoolgirls. This case made quite a stir, and the apprehended criminal was found to be involved in a similar atrocity that happened 10 years ago. Although many believed that the police had caught a true serial predator who targeted young women, only 2 incidents were proven with great difficulty, despite the presence of ample evidence. Unidentified torso in a water body. On September 11th, 2017, in the Canadian city of Oshawa, Ontario, a local fisherman spotted something horrifying in the city harbor. Floating in the water was a severely disfigured and decomposed human torso. The man immediately reported his find to the police, and the remains were soon retrieved and taken to the Forensic Medical Service for identification and necessary examinations. Experts immediately faced difficulties in identifying the body. It lacked limbs and a head, and it was practically gutted. They managed to determine only that the remains belonged to a young woman aged between 18 and 25 years. It was impossible to identify the victim by fingerprints, dental records, or distinctive features. However, a fragment of a tattoo was visible on the neck, but it was impossible to make out what it represented due to the advanced state of decomposition. There was only hope for a DNA analysis, but no matches were found in the existing database, and thus law enforcement began to check the cases of all young women who had gone missing in recent months. Only in November of the same year, nearly 2 months after the gruesome discovery, was it established that the body belonged to 18-year-old high school student Rory Hash, who had disappeared in mid-August of the same year, about a month before the remains were found. At the time of her disappearance, the girl was pregnant. Over several weeks, divers thoroughly examined the harbor and the adjacent shoreline of Lake Ontario, but no other body parts, head or limbs, were found. It was also impossible to determine the time and cause of death. However, experts found that the body had numerous severe injuries inflicted while she was still alive. This led to the suspicion that the girl had been tortured over a long period before her life was tragically ended. The strange neighbor. The story took an unexpected turn 4 months later, when at the end of December, David Wood's family moved into the house at 19 McMillan Drive, Oshawa. They immediately noticed a strange, unpleasant smell, but their downstairs neighbor, a single 45-year-old man named Adam Strong who lived in the other half of the house, assured them it was just a minor plumbing issue that he would fix in a few days. The neighbor tried to be friendly and communicated very politely, but there was something unsettling and off-putting about him. When David's wife brought him some homemade cookies as a welcome gesture, he didn't let her even step inside his apartment. Instead, he just stepped out into the hallway, closing his door behind him. She managed to notice that his living space was in terrible disorder, and the smell inside was simply foul. Adam took the cookies, thanked the new neighbor, and hurried off. Later, when the neighbors crossed paths in the yard, he apologized for not inviting her in, explaining that he was about to renovate, and that his apartment was not looking its best at the moment. He again tried to be polite, but was noticeably nervous. For several days, as the Wood family settled in, they tried to ignore the smell, but on December 29th, they finally called a plumber due to a sewer blockage and the intensified stench. The problem seemed minor and easily fixable, but what the workers discovered in the pipes shocked even experienced forensic experts. Body parts in the sewage, a head in the refrigerator. The plumber, named Sean Farndon, along with his partner, began to clear the blockage in the Wood family's apartment. Accustomed to unpleasant odors, they were surprised by how terrible it smelled inside. Soon they realized they needed to look one floor below and descended to Strong's apartment. Reluctantly, the man let the workers in, apologizing for the mess. The smell was even worse in this space, and when the plumbers reached the site of the blockage in the pipe, the stench became unbearable. Sean later confessed that in his many years of practice, he had never encountered anything so foul-smelling. But an even more nightmarish discovery awaited them when they decided to clear the pipe. At this time, the already nervous homeowner began to behave even more strangely. He did not step away and kept asking what the workers were going to do and how long it would take. He later justified his actions by saying he was simply curious, as he had never seen this process before. The specialists tried to ignore Adam's actions and questions, but soon they extracted more than 10 kilograms of flesh tangled with long hair and bone fragments from the pipes. Sean was horrified when he saw disfigured and partially decomposed human fingers among it all. The apartment owner made a surprised face, saying he had never seen anything more disgusting in his life, and then asked the plumbers if they had any idea how all this could have ended up in the sewer pipe. Farndon didn't want to speculate and decided to immediately call the police to sort everything out. He reported the horrific discovery, noting that he most likely stumbled upon human remains, provided the address, and waited for law enforcement to arrive, making sure that Adam did not touch anything or try to dispose of any evidence. The arriving officers immediately understood that Sean was right, and indeed human flesh had been extracted from the pipes. When they decided to talk to the homeowner, they expected to hear any sort of fabrication as an excuse, but the man instead bowed his head and confirmed that the remains of a woman's body had been stuck in the pipe, and if the police wanted other parts, they were in the freezer of his refrigerator. In the freezer, they found a severed head of a young woman packed in a plastic bag, along with limb fragments, obviously those that could not be flushed down the toilet. The house itself was a real dump, where it seemed no one had ever cleaned. The kitchen was piled with dirty dishes with rotting food remains. Trash littered the floor. Empty pizza boxes were scattered around. And among all this debris, there were numerous magazines of a specific adult sadomasochistic content. Also found in the apartment were intimate toys, gags, whips, handcuffs, and special devices for binding and hanging. Who is Adam Strong? Mr. Strong was immediately arrested and taken to the police station for questioning. The police were baffled, as this man had never been in trouble with the law before and was not on their radar. There was nothing on him. He had been living at 19 McMillan Drive in Oshawa for over 10 years, since early 2007, and none of his previous neighbors had ever complained about him. Adam Strong was born in 1972 in the small town of Cornwall, located in Stormont County, Ontario. There is very little information about his family and early years. He was single and had no children. He worked as a station operator at a local gas station and as a security guard on a film set. Those who knew him personally described him as a quirky and eccentric person who thought he was smarter than others. He loved to argue and prove his point until others agreed, but overall, he was not known to be confrontational. Upon reviewing the content of Adam's personal pages on social networks, law enforcement concluded that he was seriously interested in BDSM practices. He did not hide his inclinations and openly talked about it, posting related photos and videos. He never had a constant companion, but some of his former partners claimed that Strong was a true sadist and subjected them to intimate tortures, which ultimately led to their separation. Another peculiar hobby of his was writing reviews and feedback on adult films and magazines. Clearly, watching such materials was how Adam spent all his free time. Outwardly, he did not appear to be a criminal. He behaved calmly and composedly. House of Horrors at 19 McMillan Drive. Strong's residence was cordoned off and guarded as a crime scene. An initial superficial inspection suggested that a lot of work was ahead, and new findings could shock as much as the head found in the refrigerator. Notably, matching the evidence found, law enforcement immediately speculated that the discovered head, limbs, and flesh from the pipes could belong to Rory Hash, whose torso was pulled from a water body 4 months earlier. This speculation was supported by a tattoo on the neck, and DNA analysis dispelled any last doubts. Blood-stained clothing and shoes of a young woman were found hidden in various rooms among piles of trash in Adam's house. Blood traces were also found on the bed in the bedroom, which turned out to belong to the missing schoolgirl. In addition, her blood splatters were on the walls, furniture, and even on the ceiling in the room. The kitchen was equipped with an actual dissection table, on which the suspect likely dismembered and gutted the girl. Blood traces, skin particles, hairs, and bone fragments were everywhere, creating a horrifying sight that provoked nausea in those who inspected it. The bathroom was also incomplete.
Hey, Canada, Ribfest is back at Montana's. Come on in and dig into all-you-can-eat ribs. Available all...
Unsanitary conditions. Dirt, blood, and signs of brutal acts were everywhere. The toilet was dismantled and lying in a corner amidst trash. Clearly, Strong had tried to dispose of the body by flushing it down the sewer in parts. And when he realized there was a blockage, he attempted to fix it himself, but failed. Moreover, a large variety of sharp weapons was found in the house, which were likely used by Adam to dismember the girl's body. Some knives were still smeared with her blood. Semen traces of the apartment owner were also found on the body fragments retrieved from the refrigerator. Who was Rory Hash? Let's delve into who the victim was, how she ended up in the home of her perpetrator, and what happened to her. Rory Hash was born on July 9th, 1999, in Oshawa, and was the only child of a woman named Shannon Dion. Her father left before she was born and took no part in her life. Rory grew up in a rather unique family. Her maternal grandfather was once the founder and leader of a motorcycle club called Satan's Choice, and was also known as a talented boxer with strong connections to the criminal underworld. Rory's uncle was a member of the Hells Angels bike club, led a daring lifestyle, and had his own legal troubles. Despite having such relatives, Rory's childhood could be described as peaceful and carefree. Her mother and grandmother did everything to provide for her, surrounding her with love and care. Rory was a good student, excelled in dance, and even won awards at competitions. People described her as a very intelligent, sensible, and open-hearted child. At the age of 13, Rory received an award as the best cadet of the year in her local army unit. However, at 15, she began to spiral. A friend introduced her to drugs, and she quickly became dependent. She began spending more time with dubious company, neglected her studies, and soon stopped attending school altogether. For about a year, her family tried to help her overcome her dependency by placing her in various clinics, but she relapsed each time and the cycle would start over. At 17, she ran away from home and began to provide intimate services for money to afford illicit substances. It was then that Shannon sought help from a specialized service for teens with dependencies, which managed to send Rory to mandatory treatment. The efforts were not in vain, and Rory eventually returned to a normal life. She found work as a salesperson in a local shop and studied remotely to pass her exams and obtain a high school diploma, with hopes of attending college in the future. Moreover, Rory began a serious relationship with a boy named Anthony, and in the spring of 2017, they decided to move in together. In June 2017, she informed her mother that she was pregnant and planned to keep the baby. Rory was nearly 18 and mature enough, so her mother supported her decision. However, Shannon was unaware that her daughter had resumed using illicit substances. In mid-August, Rory met with local constable Christopher Crane at a shopping center. Crane had been monitoring her situation for the last 18 months, ensuring she wasn't falling back into bad company. That day, Rory confessed to him that she had relapsed into drug use and had lost her job a month earlier, agreeing to intimate exchanges for money or a fix. Crane was deeply concerned by her confession. He promised to help and asked her to wait a few minutes while he stepped away to urgently call a service to arrange Rory's hospitalization. However, when he returned, Rory had vanished and the constable was unable to find her. The next day, Rory's mother and uncle brought her to the hospital after finding her incoherent from substance use. For some reason, the relatives did not stay with her, but left her in the emergency room queue and stepped out for about an hour. Upon their return, they found that she had disappeared, and she was never seen alive again. Surveillance footage showed that she simply got up, walked to the exit, and left the hospital. Her family filed a missing person report the following day, but despite extensive searches and the rapid spread of information on social media, no trace of her was found. Although it was never definitively established how she ended up in Strong's house, it is most likely that her desperate need for drugs led her there to provide intimate services to the man. Investigation begins. After Adam immediately informed the police about the location of the remaining body parts, investigators expected him to start confessing. However, once at the station, he became withdrawn and refused to answer questions. He remained calm and did not admit to any wrongdoing. Since there was no direct evidence linking him to the girl's death, he was only charged with desecration of a body. Despite his lawyer's efforts, the detainee was denied bail and remained in jail pending trial. The investigators didn't know how to approach him effectively and tried to provoke an emotional response to make him reveal himself during questioning. However, Strong was not easily manipulated and carefully avoided questions about how Hash ended up in his house and what he did to her. Meanwhile, he willingly talked about his love for bladed weapons and his extensive collection of knives. Searches continued in Adam's house, and in one room, hidden in a closet, a dirty hunting knife was found with dried skin fragments that appeared human. DNA testing revealed that the samples from the knife did not match Rory's, but belonged to another individual. Identifying the person took several months, but by July 2017, it was clear that the traces on the weapon were from a young woman named Candace Fitzpatrick, who had disappeared about 10 years earlier. Who was the first victim? Candace Fitzpatrick had much in common with Rory Hash. This teenager also struggled with substance dependence and legal issues, grew up in a troubled family, often ran away from home, and would disappear for months at a time, living with acquaintances and sustaining herself by exchanging her body for sustenance and illicit substances. She was born in 1989 and was 18 at the time of her disappearance. Her family did not immediately notice her disappearance and only reported her missing almost 2 years later, by which time it was too late to find any leads. Additionally, her lifestyle and social circle led many to assume she could have ended up anywhere. For 10 years, Candace's parents believed that she had run away, but hoped she would eventually return. However, the news from law enforcement in 2018 shattered their hopes of ever seeing their daughter alive again. It is notable that both victims of the suspect were the same age and bore a striking resemblance to each other. They looked almost like sisters. This led to the belief that the police had apprehended a serial predator, and while Fitzpatrick and Hash were not his only victims, only the remains of the latter were found. The audacious criminal. When questioned about the second woman, Strong unexpectedly decided to bargain. He acknowledged his serious predicament and expressed a willingness to cooperate, but only in exchange for more comfortable living conditions. He demanded a private cell, a large TV, internet access, and even specified a menu of his preferred meals. The law enforcement officials were outraged by his audacity, but conceded to gain the information. Adam started his story by recounting his difficult childhood, detailing how he had been abused by his stepfather from the age of 5, and how he had started torturing and ending the lives of animals from the age of 7, finding physical pleasure in these acts. He also discussed his intimate preferences and lamented his inability to find a woman who shared his interests in this area. When the conversation turned to Rory, he described in detail and with apparent pleasure how he had dismembered her, expressing regret that his plumbing had failed him. However, the police were unable to secure a confession regarding her demise. Strong insisted that the woman had died from an overdose, and he had merely disposed of the body. When Strong was first asked about Candace, he was quite surprised, given that it had been 10 years. He tried to find out how the police had learned about her. Upon hearing about the pieces of flesh stuck to an old knife, he became somber and regretted not taking better precautions to ensure his own safety. He confirmed that he had met the woman, but claimed he had not ended her life. Nonetheless, the evidence found did not support his claims. Accidentally incriminated himself. In an attempt to evoke some semblance of sympathy or remorse, the police informed him that Rory was pregnant at the time of her death. However, Adam vehemently denied this. A detective noted that the pregnancy was in its early stages, so it might not have been visibly noticeable, but the criminal insisted he would have noticed. At this moment, the investigators realized that Strong would argue endlessly to prove his point, so they decided to provoke him into revealing more than he intended. They insisted that the victim was expecting, and he attempted to prove otherwise, claiming he had personally examined her and even held her reproductive organs in his hands, and there was nothing there. Caught up in his narrative and deeply recalling the process, he began to describe the details and his sensations, mentioning how the flesh was soft and warm, and at one point, he even spoke of feeling a pulsation. This led law enforcement to believe that the woman might have still been alive at that moment. Later, Adam tried to deny everything, but his statements had been recorded on camera and were presented in court. He did not disclose what he had done with Candace's body, and her remains were never found. Detectives also failed to learn about any other possible victims. During one of the last interrogations, Strong indifferently stated, "I don't know if it matters, but I would like my condolences to be passed on to the girl's parents." Trial and sentencing. The defendant's lawyers insisted that their client was mentally ill, unable to be held responsible for his actions, and in need of medical care. The court faced the question of whether he was sane and could be held accountable, or if he truly belonged in a psychiatric facility rather than a prison. However, a psychiatric evaluation determined that, despite certain disorders, the man was aware of his actions and thus could be held legally accountable. The trial of Adam Strong began in September 2020, 3 years after the death of Rory and 12 years after Candace disappeared. He was charged with 2 counts of ending lives, as well as desecration of Rory's remains. Although he never admitted his guilt, the evidence found in his home and his confessions during interrogations left no doubt about his involvement in these heinous acts. 4 of Adam's former partners also testified, describing his cruelty and propensity for violence. According to the prosecution, the defendant lured both women to his home, promising them money for intimate services. Given his specific preferences and the evidence found on Rory's body, he immobilized his victim, tormented her for a long period, and likely ended her life during the ordeal, fearing that she would report him to the police. On September 4th, a signal from his mobile phone was detected near the city harbor, where he discarded the torso of the victim, hoping it would be carried away by the current. In April 2021, Adam Strong was found guilty of ending the lives of Candace Fitzpatrick and Rory Hash, as well as desecration of the latter's remains. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The verdict didn't particularly disturb the criminal, who noted in his closing remarks that his prison cell was much better and more comfortable than his previous living conditions. 6 months after his sentencing, Adam unexpectedly confessed to the location of the first victim's remains. Following his directions, the search lasted several months until the police discovered human bones. DNA testing confirmed that the skeleton belonged to young Fitzpatrick, which was officially announced. In conclusion, investigators are almost certain there could be more victims in the Strong case, at least one more woman. Notably, When Adam was brought in for his initial interrogation, his personal items were confiscated, among which was a chain with 3 rings. He later asked for this item to be returned, noting that the rings meant a lot to him and he did not want to lose them. Subsequently, relatives of Rory and Candace identified 2 of the rings as belonging to their daughters, but the 3rd ring remains unidentified. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my... Hi, everyone. Welcome to my channel, and today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. Elusive Hopes. In the spring of 1999, the community of Southport in the United Kingdom was split into 2 camps. The media and television were filled with numerous interviews with Mitchell Key, a man who, though unremarkable at first, had become a true folk hero. His sudden popularity was sparked by a scandal, the mysterious disappearance of his wife, Lindsay Wilson. One day, she left home without a trace, leaving behind 2 young children. Her distraught husband appeared worried and abandoned, pleading for her to reconsider and return. Along the way, he shared details of their marital life, occasionally speaking unfavorably about his spouse. He believed her behavior was driven by a desire for a free and extravagant lifestyle. Mitchell mentioned seeing his former beloved driving around town in an expensive car, although she just passed by. Most likely, the grief-stricken mother had left her children for a wealthy fiancé. Despite the image portrayed on TV, in reality, he was enjoying a bachelor's life. As a result, one segment of the population sympathized with the lonely man, offering him attention and support. The other doubted him and suspected him of a horrendous crime. While Mitchell enjoyed widespread attention, law enforcement continued to search for the missing woman. His persona did not inspire trust, and there were complications in the case. According to Lindsay's relatives and friends, the couple's relationship was different from what her husband claimed. Everyone who knew her considered her a faithful wife and caring mother. Therefore, they were convinced something terrible must have happened to Lindsay. Otherwise, she would have made contact long ago. Suspicion was fueled by Mitchell's words during a famous talk show. When the host asked if he had ended his wife's life, his guest said he would not respond to such an indecent question, then paused and added, "Wait and find out." What was the exemplary husband and father implying? Perhaps he knew more than he shared, or was he so confident in his innocence that he was just waiting for everything to fall into place? Answers to these and other questions are forthcoming. Stockholm Syndrome. This is a shocking story about the terrible consequences of Stockholm Syndrome. The term refers to the traumatic bond between an aggressor and a victim, resulting in the victim sympathizing with their aggressor and often defending and justifying their actions. A decade ago, this phenomenon was examined through the lens of the relationship between a criminal and a hostage. However, today it has become widely recognized in the context of domestic relationships, explaining the behavior of a spouse enduring physical and emotional abuse from their partner. Typically, the wife adopts the role of the victim, and the husband the tyrant. In most cases, domestic Stockholm Syndrome arises among individuals with a sacrificial mindset, attracting narcissistic characters whom they wish to heal and empower. And to ensure their tormentors do not feel alone, they are ready to share their pain. Let's not delve too deeply into psychology. The essence remains the same. Often, those who become victims of abuse are kind-hearted and empathetic people. Lindsay Wilson was one of them, a young woman who wanted to love and be loved. Her primary mistake was that she failed to recognize the object of her adoration in time. And as time passed, she struggled to escape from their codependent relationship. Lindsay's story. At 17, Lindsay discovered she was pregnant. Raised in a caring, large family, she hadn't imagined becoming a mother so early. She wasn't unprepared emotionally, but the fact that her boyfriend, with whom she'd been since she was 13, fled as soon as he learned about the impending fatherhood both upset and scared her. Lindsay knew all too well the physical and financial demands of motherhood. The Wilson family, though loving and close-knit, had often faced financial challenges. To provide for their children, her parents worked tirelessly. Therefore, when Lindsay met Mitchell Quee 5 months into her pregnancy, she considered it a gift of fate. Mitchell, a 20-year-old, acted like a true gentleman, being attentive and caring. Most importantly, her delicate condition did not deter him. Mitchell assured her he had fallen in love with Lindsay at first sight and wanted to spend his life with her and raise the child as his own. At that time, he was earning well and even started working extra hours so his beloved would want for nothing. The young couple's parents were shocked when they announced their decision to marry. They felt the 5-week-old relationship hadn't withstood the test of time and circumstances, and thus couldn't genuinely celebrate for them. The only thing Lindsay's relatives noted was that her former cheerfulness and good health had returned. At the same time, the new boyfriend seemed overly sweet to them, even cloyingly polite. Ultimately, no one interfered with their marriage, keeping their doubts to themselves. Red flag. The wedding took place in August 1995 within a close family circle. The majority of the guests were from the bride's side. The groom's side was represented by no more than 5 people: his parents, a brother, and 2 friends. During the celebration, Lindsay was ecstatic, believing she had won the lottery in life. However, the uneasy premonitions of Lindsay's relatives grew heavier when, by the end of the evening, the newlyweds had a dispute. The conflict unfolded before everyone's eyes. Something displeased Mitchell, and he started to shout loudly. It was unlikely that the reason was significant or appropriate for such a reaction. During the argument, he grabbed his new wife by the hand and started shaking her, which looked more than odd and threatening. Lindsay tried to calm him down. When the emotions subsided, the man apologized to everyone and later made light of the incident, emphasizing that it was just nerves due to the holiday bustle. At that moment, the girl did not give due attention to the situation and quickly forgot about it. However, in reality, it became one of the red flags in their toxic relationship. Diligent specialist. On February 5th, 1999, a social worker officially reported Lindsay Key missing, expressing concern over being unable to reach her client. Lindsay had sought psychological support in a short period of their life together due to recurring incidents of domestic violence, and had bravely reported the situation at home. After her disclosure, the social worker had been monitoring the young family. She informed the police that she had been unable to contact Mrs. Key for several weeks. Every time she visited the home, Lindsay's husband would answer the door, and he was also the first to answer any phone calls. The dedicated worker mentioned that she repeatedly asked to speak directly to Lindsay, but received evasive excuses. During her visits, she consistently left her contact details, yet Lindsay never called back. The social worker found this situation unsafe and requested a welfare check. Law enforcement responded to the report and visited the address, but were also unable to speak with Lindsay. Her husband Mitchell explained that he had not seen his wife at home for a long time, but did not consider her missing. According to him, on Christmas Eve, Lindsay had gone to a party with a friend and returned home early in the morning, somewhat intoxicated. They had an argument afterwards. Lindsay then packed her belongings and left without saying goodbye to the children. He claimed she left him for another man and no longer wanted any contact. Search efforts. The search for Lindsay began. During conversations with her relatives, officers learned that she was last seen by her family on December 11th, appearing in high spirits and looking well, and her behavior was normal. Her family had grown accustomed to her troubled marriage. Lindsay's mother also reported that she had tried multiple times to reach her daughter on December 24th to arrange a visit to give Christmas gifts to the grandchildren. Unable to reach Lindsay, she decided to visit in person. That day, Mitchell answered the door with the children and told her that his wife had left with friends and accused her of infidelity. However, Mrs. Wilson had long learned to take her son-in-law's words with a grain of salt. After giving the gifts to the children, she left. Detectives found it strange that no one had been concerned about the young woman's well-being for 2 months. However, there was an explanation. Everyone knew that Mitchell restricted his wife's interactions with the outside world, even with close relatives. They had previously experienced difficulty communicating with her. Therefore, it was plausible for Lindsay to drop out of sight for a while. Nonetheless, this did not mean they were not concerned about her. The news alarmed them. Everyone asserted that she did not drink and led a modest lifestyle. Moreover, her husband had forbidden her all contact with the outside world, not to mention meetings with friends and acquaintances. Inconsistencies, everything Mr. Key told the police contradicted his character profile, arousing investigators' suspicions. It seemed unlikely that Mitchell could simply let his wife go, and that Lindsay would leave her children with a tyrannical husband. However, the situation demanded a thorough investigation. To this end, the police spoke with all of Lindsay's acquaintances and tried to find anyone who had seen her after the family gathering. They also questioned neighbors and requested surveillance footage from the residential complex where the couple lived and its surroundings. Unfortunately, all footage had been deleted. By the time Lindsay's disappearance was noted, some time had elapsed. However, another date was discovered when she was last seen in person. On December 15th, she was at the local post office, sending several letters and postcards as usual. Her older sister also admitted that they met that day. Lindsay had visited despite Mitchell's disapproval. The sisters had tea and a brief conversation, after which Lindsay saw her guest out. On the way, she slipped a note into her sister's hand and asked her to read it later. The sister put the note in her purse and in the whirlwind of days, forgot about it. Regrettably, the older sister couldn't find it later, and its contents remain unknown. After that day, no one saw Lindsay again. Over several months, investigators tried to cling to any information. They began to suspect that she was no longer alive, as she had not been in contact for so long. They couldn't
Get into your first home faster with the Questrade First Home Savings Account. With up to $40,000 to invest,
charge Mitchell without sufficient grounds and evidence. However, the more they learned about the couple's life history, the stronger their suspicions grew. Marriage. Shortly after their wedding, Mitchell and Lindsay decided to move away from their parents. They rented an apartment in Southport. Sometime later, Lindsay gave birth to a daughter named Robin. The only shadow over the joy of the new baby was her stepfather's volatile temper. After moving, the young wife fully experienced her husband's unstable moods. One moment he could be joking and laughing. The next, he became unbalanced and aggressive. Trying to maintain a fragile peace at home, she didn't realize how completely she had submitted to his will. He controlled every step she took and caused a scene whenever she failed to hear the phone or answer a call. However, loud arguments were often followed by passionate reconciliations. Mitchell would kneel, beg for forgiveness, and profess his love. It seemed for a while that peace had returned to the family. But then, the cycle would start again. Conflict, reconciliation, repetition. Lindsay began to lose recognition of the man she loved. She often told her relatives about what was happening. They advised her to return home and end her suffering. But it was hard for the young woman to admit her mistake. In one interview, the Wilsons mentioned that she always lived with thoughts of the past. Each time, her husband assured her he would change and everything would be fine. As a loving wife, she wanted to believe him and waited for him to return to his former self, gentle and caring. Meanwhile, Mitchell increasingly tightened his grip and control. He forbade his wife to go out alone in the evenings and eventually restricted her from being anywhere without him. He was jealous of her every move, yet he himself was seen in dubious liaisons. Once, Lindsay confided to her older sister that she suspected her husband of infidelity. She told her about a woman who came to their home looking for him and was very surprised to learn he was married. That day, another argument erupted, but this time it escalated to physical violence. Gradually, physical abuse became a part of their life. To prevent his wife from complaining about him and tarnishing his reputation, the man began to limit her interactions, starting with neighbors, friends, and acquaintances, and later with her family. Despite being unhappy, Lindsay still tried to maintain contact secretly, fearing being discovered and punished. At the same time, despite the evident problems, Lindsay continued to stay with Mitchell. Along with her feelings, the comfortable life he provided was a factor. He earned well, supporting her and their child, paying the bills. She truly lacked nothing financially. Second chance. The era of living in a gilded cage came to an end for Mrs. Key when she found out she was pregnant again. At that moment, she was certain she no longer wanted more children. It's only fair to note that Mitchell was good to his stepdaughter, even loving her. However, Lindsay deemed the current circumstances unfavorable for bringing another child into the world and decided to terminate the pregnancy. When her husband learned of this, he became enraged, hurling insults and physically intimidating her. That same evening, she packed her things, took her child, and returned to her parents' home. Her family breathed a sigh of relief. There, she proceeded with the pregnancy as she had planned. Over time, however, she began to miss her husband. He wouldn't leave her alone, frequently calling and begging her to come back. Mitchell tried everything to prove he had changed. Eventually, he managed to convince Lindsay. Initially, everything went well, and it seemed as if their old feelings had returned. The Keys were expecting another child. This peace lasted for 6 months until Mitchell had a severe anger outburst. Fortunately, he did not direct his rage at his pregnant wife, but took it out on the apartment. He smashed everything he could see, destroyed furniture, ripped doors off their hinges, and even stained the walls with blood and food remnants. He threw the television out of the window and smashed the car parked outside. The landlord demanded not only compensation for the damage and repairs, but also that they vacate the apartment. This situation worsened the family's financial position, requiring additional expenses. As a result, the couple had to take out a large loan and move to a more modest apartment. You can't run from yourself. In October 1997, their son Jack was born. The father adored the boy. However, the relationship between the spouses became increasingly tense. Throughout their married life, Mitchell frequently left home, sometimes for a few days, sometimes for a week, often over trivial or fabricated reasons. Lindsay had grown accustomed to her husband's behavior. Yet, when he abandoned her again, she filed for divorce and returned to her parents' home. Apparently, she realized she couldn't cope with the separation on her own. Therefore, she reached out to a local charity that assists women in difficult life situations. They helped her find subsidized housing in another city. Lindsay feared that Mitchell would discover her new address or phone number, so she took measures to distance herself from him. After he made several threats, she even obtained a restraining order from law enforcement. With the help of a therapist, she began to rebuild her life. She started a journal where she documented her life and experiences, intending to leave it to her children so they would never repeat her mistakes. The entries confirmed the relatives' claims about the difficult dynamics within the family. Despite her precautions, Mitchell discovered her phone number and incessantly called, demanding to see his son. With her newfound freedom, Lindsay felt lonely, and after a short time, she could not resist his persistence. They began communicating and seeing each other again, and eventually moved back in together. The mother of two was ashamed to admit her own weakness, so she told no one about it. Nevertheless, the secret came out. Relatives and friends were shocked and disappointed by the reunion with the tyrant. They couldn't understand why she had let him back into her life. Mitchell remained unpopular with Lindsay's relatives. They too wanted nothing to do with him. Ultimately, their communication nearly ceased. Despite all efforts, Lindsay repeatedly returned to the abusive relationship. Thus, her circle saw no point in trying to save her anymore, accepted the situation, and stepped back. However, this time, her decision proved to be fatal. Villain in disguise. At the outset of the investigation into Lindsay's disappearance, Mr. Key was initially helpful in the search efforts. However, as the case gained media attention, his focus shifted dramatically. He turned his misfortune into a public spectacle, becoming a media figure in the process. As Mitchell invited more journalists into his home, his abundant media appearances began to seem less genuine, with viewers often noting a smirk on his face. Lindsay's parents considered their son-in-law to be involved in their daughter's disappearance, and detectives also viewed him as the prime suspect. Yet, the lack of direct evidence tied their hands. Searches were conducted not just at the couple's home, but throughout the area. After a provocative question during a televised interview, the antagonist became even more brazen, even declaring that the time would come when his wife's family would have to apologize for their suspicions. On the eve of the holiday season, Mr. Key sent a postcard to the lead investigator on the case. Attached to it was a pack of hair dye. Instead of a festive greeting, Mitchell wrote, "I hope this covers your gray and gives you a bit more confidence," mocking the detective and displaying his own arrogance. In the media, he had already played the victim of not only marital infidelity, but also of harsh treatment by authorities. To put this upstart in his place, the investigation team gave an interview. Without revealing all the details of the case, they hinted that the well-known family man was not who he claimed to be. Tarnished reputation. In February 2000, Mitchell Key found himself at the center of a scandal. It became known that he had been forging his wife's signature to receive social benefits, serving as another indirect proof of his involvement in Lindsay's disappearance and presumed demise. The investigators wanted to latch onto a financial motive. However, the suspect's popularity worked in his favor. Many supporters emerged, arguing that as a single father, he had every right to financial assistance. These circumstances hindered the detectives' ability to bring the charges they desired. Nevertheless, they managed to charge him with fraud. Mr. Quee was brought to court for the benefit fraud and was found guilty, sentenced to a month of community service. This time, Mitchell couldn't walk away unscathed. The forgery of his missing wife's signature appeared more than suspicious. The number of angry comments increased. Eventually, the man's patience snapped, and he began lashing out, blaming the media for intruding into his personal life. A new beginning. The case of Lindsay Key's disappearance might have remained unsolved had it not been for a clue discovered by chance. On June 1st, 2000, a park-goer noticed his dog acting strangely near the roller coaster at a city amusement park. The animal uncovered human remains. Specialists were called to the scene, and the remains were sent for forensic examination, which revealed that they were parts of a female torso. Genetic testing confirmed they belonged to Lindsay Key, who had been missing for a long time. This breakthrough revitalized the investigation, making it clear that Lindsay had been the victim of a brutal crime. The focus now was to find the perpetrator. On June 7th, Mitchell was brought in for questioning. The detectives were determined, and after more than 36 hours of intermittent interrogation, the suspect broke down under the pressure and confessed. Dismemberment murder. On December 15th, 1998, after meeting with her sister, Lindsay informed her husband that she wanted a divorce. This time, she was resolute. According to Key, this news infuriated him, leading him to attack and strangle her. The incident occurred in front of their children. He then hid her lifeless body in their bedroom, stuffing the gap under the door to mask any odors. Realizing he couldn't dispose of the body alone, he enlisted the help of his brother Elliot, a butcher who he thought could assist. Elliot was initially hesitant, but was eventually persuaded by Mitchell. While the children played in the next room, they dismembered Lindsay's body and later dispersed her remains across the city. During his confession, the murderer expressed no remorse or empathy. Instead, he seemed proud of his actions, stating that without his confession, they would never have proven his guilt. The next day, he led them to the other locations where he had hidden her limbs. Sadly, her head and one hand were never recovered. The forensic comparison confirmed that the remains were indeed Lindsay's. There was no doubt about Mitchell's guilt. The final judgment. The trial of the Key brothers took place in January 2001. The court proceedings were swift and straightforward. Mitchell was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 17 years. The court-appointed psychiatrist noted that the defendant showed all the signs of being a narcissist with sadistic tendencies. His brother Elliot received a 7-year sentence for his role in concealing the crime. Lindsay's children were taken in by her maternal grandparents, who gave them their surname. Just 3 months after the sentence was handed down, another tragedy struck the Wilson family. One of Lindsay's older brothers, unable to cope with the shock, took his own life in the attic of their family home. In his farewell note, he wrote that he saw no point in continuing in such a cruel world and wished to reunite with his sister. As of 2017, Mitchell Key has been eligible for parole. However, as of January 2023, his lawyers have been denied 3 times. The Wilsons, including the children, are concerned that the murderer might eventually be released. Consequently, they have started a petition urging that he remain incarcerated. As long as the voices of the victim's family are considered, the criminal will continue to serve his sentence. Regardless, no punishment can bring Lindsay back. In an interview, Mr. Wilson mentioned hearing rumors that his former relative had attempted to end his life. He added that he sincerely hopes the murderer will try again and succeed this time. Experience shows that most women with domestic Stockholm syndrome try to adapt to their abusers throughout their lives. Even when their families come to their aid, they continue to act against their own best interests. In such cases, only deep self-reflection and psychotherapy can help. If the victim does not come to realize the recklessness of their actions, the end of the relationship will be dire. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel. There are many shocking stories.
Well, guys, I think I'm gonna shut it down for tonight. I am ready to go lay down and just kind of watch a movie and relax a little bit. But, as always, we shall see you all later. Thanks for watching.